Hello everyone, and welcome to our webinar on Red Team Essential, a beginner guide to MITRE ATT&CK Framework. I'm Nandini Bharadwaj, the operating officer at CyberWarFare Labs and the host of today's webinar. And I'm excited to have you all here with us today. So, let's get started. So, before we start, let me tell you a bit about us. We are CyberWarFare Labs, a UK based focused company on cybersecurity education. Our goal is to help people tackle cybersecurity solution and challenges with a practical solution. So we have got two main divisions to our company. So first is CyberRange Labs. So this is where you get hands-on experience with cybersecurity. We have built a virtual platform where you can try out real life scenarios and sharpen your skills with practical exercise. And the second one is upskilling platform. Here we offer a bunch of courses for people at all skills level. Whether you are just starting out or you're a seasoned pro, we have got something for you. And our courses cover domains like ethical hacking, red teaming, blue teaming, and purple teaming with cloud security. And our training services are also available to educational institute, government agencies, and corporate organizations. Both online and offline training options are available. So if you want to know more, you can drop us a line at to our support team, that is support@cyberwarfare.live. Okay, so now let's take a moment to introduce our speaker for today's webinar, that is John Surgeon. So, John is a Red Team security researcher at CyberWarFare Labs. With over 5 plus years of experience, he is an expert in reverse engineering, malware analysis, and Windows internal. Currently, he is focused on EV/ADR evasion projects. Okay, so that's all about the speaker. So, dear participants, as promised, we are excited to share that every participant will receive an attendance certificate along with the video recording of the webinar. And along with that, at the end of the webinar, John will provide a guide to every participant on how to get guaranteed 20% off on our soon to be launched uh, course, that is Certified Cybersecurity Engineer course, along with the free access of our upskilling learning platform, that is Infinity Platform. For more information and for links, you can check your text box. After sometimes you will receive the link for Infinity Platform where you can sign up for free. So that's it. Thank you for being part of this engaging session, and we'll look forward for your continuous participation. And from here, without further ado, I would like John to take over and let's get started. So it's over to you, John.
Can anyone confirm if my voice is loud and screen is visible? I I hope my screen is visible now. Okay, so let's begin. And thank you everyone for joining this webinar today. And I really appreciate that everyone is here taking out extra time for this webinar. And we are convened here today to briefly discuss the MITRE framework and how it aids in red teaming. So this is our today's topic, and we are going to briefly discuss on this. So let's head ahead to the uh, topic today. Today's topic. So before we go to reach to the MITRE framework, let's understand what's red teaming. So we have heard about this word red teaming quite a lot over the social media and everyone, and maybe probably some of you, whoever have joined here, are also working as the red teaming, and maybe someone who is here is trying to pursue the career as a red teaming as well. So let's first understand a little bit about the red teaming, and then we'll move towards to the MITRE framework. So red teaming is is a methodology that organization follows to reinforce their system defenses. And here, how red teaming works is actually red teaming simulates the real world threats which are close to the real world adversaries. So here we, as a red teamer, we perform the attacks to the organization's system to check the system defenses. So we have to uh, understand whether the current system implemented in the organization is capable of is capable to withstand the attack of the real world threats or not. So this is the common concept that we do as a red teaming, which is why some of the time we also get confused with the penetration testing and the red teaming as well. Here, as a red teaming, we don't have to be in a scope, which means we have to follow the entire attack lifecycle, and we do the attack to evaluate the security and effectiveness of the system which is implemented by the organization, and also to check the defensive response. Let's say if there are the security controls or the security teams um, are already present in the organization, the attack would be to understand how the response will come from the defensive side of the perimeter as well. So as I just mentioned earlier, in a red teaming, we try to simulate or emulate the attack close to the adversaries, which means it is first, it's very prominent for us to understand the attack life cycle, which is actually generalized by the many of the organization to to understand the adversaries as well. So here is a general cyber attack life cycle, and this image is from the Mandiant, which is a very good image reference for this webinar. So if we try to understand the attack life cycle, so if you see there, first it goes from the initial compromise, then the attacker will try to get the foothold onto the compromised machine, and then they try to maintain the persistence, or they will try to escalate the privilege, and again they have to do further reconnaissance to find something in the intranet, to move laterally in the network, and whatever the mission they are coming up with, they once they complete the mission, they will they may dispose the campaign as well. So this is the very brief attack life cycle, and usually as a red teamer, we first need to understand this life cycle to simulate and emulate the threat which we are going to emulate to perform the attack on the organization. So first of all, let's talk in the perspective of the attacker. So why they want to perform the initial access? It's because they want to do something to that organization, or maybe they have some motive to infect that organization. So if for the initial compromise, they may perform the maybe they will identify some public facing devices and they will try to exploit that, or maybe they will try to perform the phishing attack on the employees, or maybe somehow they will able to drop the malware into the system. The malware execution can also connects to the C2 as well. So these are the some of the initial vectors that attackers follows to perform at least the execution in the system to gain the initial compromise. And after the initial compromise, they have to establish the foothold, which means they have to maintain the compromised machine, because because the system can reboot at any time. So they have to figure out the way to backdoor that compromised machine so that they can attack, so that they can gain access to that machine even after maybe the computer is rebooted. And here you can see there are a bunch of a bunch of adversaries groups which actually follows the established foothold. After the initial compromise, you can see the list of the malwares and groups here. And then here it will try to at least backdoor and try to gain connection even after the reboot. And next, here comes the privilege escalation. Privilege escalation is could be really mandatory, which is this is because that it is very occasional that the attacker will reach to its mission, reach to their missions right after gaining the established foothold. It's a very rare, and one cannot simply go from let's say compromisation of the machine to the complete mission. Maybe the network is so huge at the machine which they have compromised may not have whatever it is required to achieve their mission, which is why they have to dig deeper into the network to achieve whatever their goal is. So for that, they will try to escalate the privilege before the lateral movement. Why privilege escalation is necessary here is, let's say there could be the credential in the memory, so you have to dump the credential. In such case, you cannot simply dump the memory uh, without any without the sufficient privilege. So which is why it is mandatory for the attacker to escalate the privilege to gain higher permissions to perform some attacks, to gain some credentials, or maybe to modify something in the system. And you can see there are a couple of the malwares or the tools that are present here, which can be used or which are using the escalation privilege escalation stage. You can see the barbed wire is also here in the escalation. You can see the same barbed wire is in the established foothold as well. So once they have, let's say, the privilege, and once they have enough information to move from this compromised machine to another machine, in that case they will move literally into the network to another machine. And there are a bunch of tools like tools of the protocol they can abuse in such case. Let's say there is a RDP, there is a putty, and they can also, let's say, move laterally through the SMB as well. And you can see the meta exploit is very good tool to perform the lateral movement as well. And from escalation to move laterally, there comes the internal reconnaissance. And let's say we escalate the privilege, and sorry, the attacker, let's say the attacker escalates the privilege, then the attacker needs to know what whether he is in a domain zone environment, whether, let's say, he is in a standalone machine. Let's say he need to figure out what are all the devices or workstation connected into the domain controller, so that he or they can move internally in the network. So the the internal reconnaissance is also very mandatory, and you can see there are a bunch of tools and commands that attackers can use to perform the internal reconnaissance. And once they move laterally, they will try to again maintain the presence there, and again they will try to escalate the privilege, and this cycle goes on until they complete their mission. So mission completion as means that maybe they are exfiltrating something, maybe they are stealing some confidential data, or maybe they are just disrupting the services, or maybe they are just eavesdropping the organization by maintaining the presence there. So anything could happen. So this is the normal attack life cycle. But if you just look at here, the attack life cycle is understandable, but how can anyone organize the uh, how anyone can organize the detail and the each and every attackers which are following this particular life cycle? How can anyone know that? Because we need to have something to maybe we need to start on our own, or maybe someone has to do it for our case to to perfectly categorize everything, the adversaries, and what are the techniques that they are following, what are the tactics they are following. So there has to be done something to organize everything in a structured way, because if you look at here is if you just look at here, it is also very difficult to figure out, okay, the barbed wire is here, and also if I go and look at and try to find the barbed wire here, it's here, it's maintaining the presence, but I cannot find it here. I cannot see, okay, I can find it here, barbed wire, but I cannot find the barbed wire doing the internal reconnaissance. So how can we maintain, or maybe how can we get such information? And also one thing is that not every attacker group follow the similar life cycle. They may, let's say, they may skip the escalation and they may go to the maybe internal reconnaissance. Probably they figure out some a way to exploit some machine internally, or maybe some protocol internally, so that they do not require the escalation, or maybe they found the low-hanging credentials lying on that compromised machine. Maybe that's why they didn't require the escalation. So anything could happen. So for that, we have a MITRE ATT&CK framework, and this is organized by the non-profit organization, and this catalog of the adversaries technique and tactics and technique is provided globally, and it is accessible by anyone, and all the information that are here in the MITRE ATT&CK framework, these are all the real world observation, and this is what we are going to talk now, because as a red teamer we have to emulate and simulate the threat. But how can we find the data, such database, so that we can structurize our assessment while doing the red teaming? So here comes the MITRE ATT&CK framework for the rescue. So this MITRE ATT&CK framework is used by the many private sectors or government sectors or cybersecurity products to create the threat models for their organization as well. But here we are going to talk in a perspective of the red teaming. So before that, we have to first understand the few elements that MITRE ATT&CK framework exist. So first of all, MITRE framework, it organize everything, the group and their techniques and everything, in the basis of these three elements. First of all, it's a tactics. So tactics is a goals that adversaries want to achieve. So let's say if we go to the life cycle and check out the barbed wire. So barbed wire is maintaining the foothold, and also it is escalating the privilege, but it is, let's say here we do not find the barbed wire here, at least for here. So let's say in such case, why they didn't perform the internal reconnaissance, but it is already in the lateral movement. So it already did a lateral movement, but it was not present here in the internal reconnaissance. So here the tactics is organized by why that attacker perform such attack. So it's a goal why they perform the lateral movement, why they perform the privilege escalation. So that is what here in the tactics, and inside the tactics it contains the technique, which is a specific methods or ways where adversaries follows to achieve the goal within that particular technique. Sorry, within that particular tactics. And here comes the procedure, and procedure is how they use that techniques to perform that attack, and this procedure may vary depending on the threat actors. And this is how it looks like MITRE ATT&CK framework. We will go inside the website and we will try to see what the information that we can, not here. Also, the attack here, the abbreviation for the attack here is an adversary tactics, technique, and common knowledge. If you look at here, the attack metrics for the enterprise, you can see a huge um, list of the techniques under the tactics. If you look at here, reconnaissance, there is a 10 techniques here. If you look at the resource development, there are 8 techniques inside the resource development. Let's go and check the enterprise metrics. But if you look at here, you have the enterprise metrics and mobile and ICS. ICS could be the industrial um, matrices, but we will focus in the enterprises. And after this webinar, you can go into the mobile, or you may want to go into the ICS. Wherever you want to go, you can perform your own research after that. So if you look at here, there is a reconnaissance, and let's just go and select the Windows only. You can find list of operating system here, but let's just go and check inside the Windows. And inside the initial access, just look at here, there are 10 techniques. Inside the execution, there are 10 techniques. Inside the persistent, there are 10 techniques. And initial access, let's say the attacker can perform the content injection, drive-by compromise, or maybe they can also exploit the public facing applications, and they may also perform the phishing. And if you look at here, just right after the phishing, there is a four, which means this is a technique and this contains four sub techniques. And there's a spear phishing attachment, a spear phishing link, a spear phishing services. And if we just click here, spear phishing attachment, then look at here, we are inside the technique phishing, and inside the sub technique spear phishing attachment. And just right here, you can see the procedure, which means that you will see at what time, probably at what time, or maybe the little description on this, or at what time or by which attacker group use this spear phishing to perform the initial access. If you look at here, during the 2015 Ukraine electric power attack, the sandworm team obtained their initial foothold into many IT systems using Microsoft Office attachment delivered through the phishing emails. So in the procedure, you will find bunch of APT groups trying to perform this spear phishing attachment technique, and the procedure what they follow to do that. Just look at here, this sandworm team, they use the Microsoft Office attachment. At the same time, this admin at the rate 338, which is a group. If you just look at the bottom here, right here at the bottom left corner, if I hover over here, that's a group G0018. So this group sent the emails with the malicious Microsoft Office document attached. So they perform the phishing by probably the macros that is used in this Microsoft Office, which is a malicious. And also you can see here the agent Tesla, they also send the email phishing messages, and you can see a bunch of group using the phishing technique. And if you look at here, these two are the Microsoft, but if we take a look at here, APTC36, it did a attack with the email, which is also true for them as well. They also send the email, but here they send the email with a password protected ARIA attachment to avoid being detected by the email gateway. So which is why the procedure could vary, even the technique is same. Just look at here, it is the Microsoft Office, this is the ARIA attachment. And here are the RTF file format, here's Excel, and there are a bunch of other techniques, other procedures that these groups perform to this group use the spear phishing sub technique to gain the initial access. So this is the procedure here. And another interesting thing about the MITRE is, if you look at here, the reference, it has given the reference. So all you have to do is if you want to know more about this procedure, or maybe more about this group, or maybe the attack they performed here, you may want to click on this link and just open the reference here and just go and read through this particular attack, and you will find more information on how they attacked and what are the life cycle attack life cycle they followed, and how they achieved their goals, and everything you may able to figure out based on the reference that it is given here. And if we go down here, they also give the mitigation strategies that you can follow to avoid say, such attacks, and they also provide the detection. And also another important thing to note here, the sub technique and then the technique. If you look at here, the technique ID is T1566 and the subtechnique is 001, and the tactics is initial access, and the platform that it was used in the Windows, Linux, Windows, Mac OS. So these informations are very helpful when you are maybe writing a detection rule, or maybe when you are trying to correlate the malware which you have found. And let's say you are doing some malware analysis, and or maybe you are following some, or maybe you are just tracking some attacks, and you may want to correlate that attack. And in such way, the MITRE framework will give you the structured way to map the attack that you are trying to record with the MITRE, the catalog that it is present here in the MITRE framework with a very great detail here. So you, let's say if you find some malware doing the spear phishing, and sorry, you're trying to do the phishing, and then let's say the attacker is using a spear phishing attachment, which means you can correlate that with the ID T15660001, which means that okay, that attack, the certain APT group, let's say ABC, is trying to perform spear phishing, and you can correlate that spear phishing with the ID T1566.001. So this is very helpful when you are actually trying to correlate the threat. But at the same time, as a red teamer, we also have to think in a way that can we able to achieve the same thing, because it is very difficult for us to emulate or simulate the adversaries 100%. So that's why it is very important, and this Mitre framework will help you out. It will just look at it. It has a bunch of procedures here. So let's say if you are maybe simulating the APT32, and you will see APT32 has sent spear phishing emails with a malicious executable disguised as a document or a spreadsheet, which means that definitely it will not help you out on giving the scripts or anything like that, but it will greatly help the blue teamers at this side of the thing, because it will give a lot more intelligence to the peoples who are actually trying to detect or maybe trying to correlate with this information. But for us, for the red teamer, it will not simply give you the command or maybe the malicious executable file, but it will give you the idea what apt32 perform. So which means now it's up to you whether you can perform the spear phishing emails with the malicious executable disguise as a document or the spreadsheets or not. So here it is actually trying to say that whether you are capable. So you have to think that whether you are capable of designing the documents with a a macro in it, so that the document looks very realistic, but it will execute the macro. So can you able to perform that or not? So if you are able to perform that, then you will have that in your simulation life cycle that you are going to follow for the APT32. And for the further reference, you can go and read through the blogs, and then you can get more information, and you have to rethink, can you able to simulate that or not? So most of the time you will be able to simulate that, but sometimes things will be a little difficult for us to simulate at the same time. So you can go to the defense, you can go to the CTI, the cyber threat intelligence, and you will see the groups here. And here are a bunch of groups, and then you can simply click on the, let's say, fin10. Okay, you are trying to simulate the fin10. Then you will see what are the tactics or techniques that it is using for the initial access. So let's say this is the T1547, and if I just right click here, and it is a sub technique, and tactics is a persistent. So can you able to replicate this or not? So it's up to you. So but here you can see the fin10 use this boot or logon auto start to perform the persistence. So you will have that in your arsenal if you are able to replicate this. And also you will see bunch of tools that it is using throughout their uh, attacks lifecycle. Okay, so now let's come to the another slide. Here we will talk a little bit about how MITRE attack will aid red teaming to perform the structured assessment, so that one can simulate the very good so let's say simulate the adversaries in a very structured manner, and then one can perform the attacks on the organization with a to check whether the security can withstand that attack or not. Okay, so MITRE framework, it provides the structure method for the assessment, which means we just saw how MITRE has organized everything in a well structured, and how we can pick up some of the technique or maybe some of the tactics which are replicable, and we can have that into our arsenal while emulating or simulating the red teaming. So it has a huge massive catalog of adversaries techniques. It has a huge knowledge base for the adversary techniques, and these are all real world observed threats. So you can go through the, so just look at here, you can go through the bunch of groups, and let's say if you want to um, simulate the Lazarus, then you can simply go there and try to pick out the techniques or the tactics, and then you can have that into your arsenal. You can replicate that and simulate the lapses here by picking some of the tactics or technique they have used, and you can also follow their procedure at the same time. Let's say you are simulating, and also you are going to, let's say, use the red line password stealer in the operation. So I think they use the red line stealer to acquire the stealer. So some of the things you have to think of whether you can you can do that or not. But there are things like just look at here. Lapsus has used Windows built-in tool anti-DS util to extract Active Directory database. So here actually they are not dumping. Let's say they are not performing the DC sync to maybe exfiltrate the credential. They are actually using the anti-DS util to dump the anti-ds.dit file so that they can extract the credentials. So you can also follow the similar approach while performing the attack. And MITRE framework, it will really facilitate the anyone who is actually trying to simulate the real threat, and this will also help the organization to identify the gap in the security. The gap means here the security, the implementation that they have done, and the recent thread that the red teamer has emulated. So it will help the organization fix the gap between them. So let's say if we are simulating the recent thread, and if we are attacking into that existing system, it will help us understand the help organization understand whether the security control is capable of defending that attack or not. And it also supports the creation of the effective training sessions and skill development. So as we see there are a bunch of huge massive techniques and techniques there. So it will definitely going to help us develop our skill. At the same time, we can also build the effective training to the organization employee or the red teamers as well. And also one thing is that red teaming, as I mentioned earlier, it is not limited to the scope, which means that while performing the red team assessment, you can also fish the internal employees, which means here it will help the help employee teach the certain attacks or maybe certain things that they have to be aware of while such thing comes to them. And another point here is it will also help document the tactics, generate the clear idea, detailed reports, and it will also help in such case that let's say in the organization, the red teamers are not the only groups that are present there. They have to work with the blue teamers as well, the other side of the people who are actually trying to protect the organization. In such case, it will it will help you to. So there will be the median. Let's say if you are a red teamer and you perform some attack, and you will say that I perform the tactics this number, and if you pass that number to the blue teamer while during the conversation, and they will understand, okay, this guy performed this attack, which means, and he was a, let's say the red teamer guy is managed to perform that attack successfully. Then in such case, the people who are actually trying to defend, they will also understand, okay, he performed this attack, which means we have to follow maybe certain mitigations that they have on their mind or they have on their sleeve. And also it will promotes the continuous improvement, because the MITRE framework, it updates the techniques. Usually if there is a recent groups there, they will try to keep the database up to date. In such case, it is also helpful for the red teaming. And also there is another tool by the MITRE itself. It is a MITRE ATT&CK Navigator, which will also help you in in simulating or emulating the thread. If we just go here, this is a attack navigator. You can find the link over here at the reference as well. If we go here and try to create a new layer, and you will see similar matrices, and from the section we will just look a little bit into this tool. From the section control, you can actually try to select and deselect what do you want or what you don't want here. And there's a layer controls, and you can filter out. Let's say we only want the windows, because let's say we are simulating for the windows, we are simulating certain apt group for the windows only, which means I can deselect everything and only the windows related techniques and sub techniques will be present here. Control, and if I search here, let me do one thing. I will go to the technique control, and if I just hover over here, and it will expand, because there are 6 techniques that that we can simulate for the command and script interpreter. Let's say we want to simulate the JavaScript. You can also have the custom simulation here, not just you don't have to follow the exact apt. You can, let's say, whatever you have on your mind, you can also do that. So let's say I want, for the execution, I want to include the JavaScript, the malicious script. In such case, I will just highlight this. I'll just click here, and then you can see it is still highlighted. The border is visible here, and I'll go and simply drop the color here. Okay, which means now I have marked that. Okay, now I will have the JavaScript malware in my arsenal. So I'll try to do that. Let's say, and I'll also click the account manipulation, and there are 2 techniques. And here it is a device registration. Okay, I want to register the device right after the execution. In such case, I will just go and click here. And also let's say if you are defending something and you want to analyze something, in such case you can also mark this as the, here's a very small tool here. Not you can see the scoring. So let's say if you think that JavaScript or maybe the Python. Okay, I'll just select this Python. Let's say if this is okay and it is little harmful, then I can simply do 50. Or maybe let's say if you find this tool as a very malicious, then you can simply increase the score. You can it's up to you how you want to define this. Now let's say you really want to simulate the sorry an APT group, but it's a very hectic to go one by one. Also they have this feature. Go to the selection control, click here, and just look at here. There is 149 thread groups, and let's say I want to simulate this equation group, which means I'll just simply click select and just look at the blue color highlighted here, and I will so for the they use the let me just clear everything. Let me do it from the beginning one more time. Security control search and thread group, and we'll select any random. Okay, maybe the Leviathan. Just select this, and you can see the highlighted the initial. It has for the initial access, it has used the drive-by compromise or the external remote services and the valid accounts. And from the valid accounts, it is not specifically mentioned here, but most probably they were using some credentials to get access. And also you can see for the execution they use the exploitation for the client execution, and they use the WMI for the execution, and also they have used the valid account for the persistence. You can see they also exploited the remote services for the persistence. For the privilege escalation also they perform the valid accounts, which means they are using valid accounts quite often to maintain persistence execution and then the privilege escalation. And they for the defensive agent they did the offuscate decode. So you will try to get bunch of ideas here. And for the OS credential dumping they did the LSAS memory dumping. Now, from the defensive side, this is a very huge intelligence to collect and to map with the threat that they are actually analyzing. But from the red team perspective, now you have to figure out, you have to understand, or you have to think that whether whether you can have this into your arsenal or not, because you can see maybe you can do that because these are all replicable, so you have to have that on your mind while doing the simulation. You will simply let's say if you want to perform the simulation for the Leviathan, you will just go and try to figure out of these three techniques, can you have all three, or can you only go with the remote external remote services. And just look at here, how can you mark as a, let's say I told you that there is a score, right? Let's say what is the probability that you can get the external remote service exploitation, which is little low, because maybe you may not find the organization using the outdated version of the services. So in such case, you can simply give the very low score, maybe 20, and maybe you can perform the drive-by compromise, and you may feel like, okay, this gives the higher chance of initial access than the remote external access. You can have this in your arsenal for the Leviathan emulation, so you can just mark that as a 50. Okay, now the valid accounts, what's the chances that you will get the valid account for the access? Maybe low or maybe high. It depends on the organization that you are actually trying to doing the reconnaissance on. So depending on that, you can have such simulation on your documents, and you can try to emulate on the basis of that. Because maybe let's say some threads might be using a bunch of techniques here, so you may not want to simulate every other techniques that they are using. So with the help of this score, you can also uh, it is also visible. You can also uh, give the probability of that particular technique and try to simulate on the basis of that. So this is how you can also use Att&ck Navigator to make your vision clear before the attack simulation. You can select whatever you want to select, and you can give them the score and try to simulate accordingly. Okay, so this is our talk for the MITRE ATT&CK Framework, and also I like to mention one thing, which is there is another tool which MITRE Framework. Sorry. So there is another tool that MITRE has, which will also be very helpful while emulating or simulating the adversary, which is a Caldera. We are not going to talk about the Caldera, but you definitely want to go and use this at least once in your life. So this is a very good tool. You can go and check out this tool. They have a very good details here. So you can also find a couple of videos out there in YouTube on the basis of the Caldera. So it's a autonomous adversary simulation. So you can go and try to play with this Caldera. It will help you out developing your red teaming skill as well, and the simulation skill at the same time. Okay, thank you for your patience. This is all for our talk, and also we are coming with a new course called Certified Cybersecurity Engineer, which is for the beginners, and we are also providing 20% off for this new course. You can use the coupon code CCSC 20 off to enroll into this course, and the course is live now. You can explore through the course details, and you can use this 20% off to purchase the course. Okay, so this is all for today, and if you have any questions, I'll be here um, for 5 minutes, and we will be done with this webinar for today. Yes, the webinar will be uploaded in the YouTube. I hope the screen is visible. I think I'm audible. Um, okay, the link will be shared very soon. The slides will be shared, and the video will be uploaded in the YouTube as well. You will get the link and also the attendance certificate. There is no giveaway, but yeah, definitely we are giving 20% off on this new course which we are launching based on your experience how one can use Mitre Framework for cloud rate teaming. Okay, I think for cloud rate, the cloud matrices are also available in the Mitre Framework. So you can go and try to pick some of the techniques which you feel you can emulate or simulate, and just go through the details which group is actually performing that particular attack. Just take out that and then try to do little more research, because it's not going to give you the technique, or maybe it is not going to give you with with the command, but you can simply do a couple of research there on the internet, and you will definitely going to figure out something and have that in your arsenal. But the procedure that they are describing in the procedure table is very good. It will tell you the lot more data about which attacker group used for what purpose as well, and based on that you can figure out for the cloud red teaming as well. Okay, these tools are globally accessible, and you can simply go to the MITRE framework. You can there in the reference. I'll So here is the tool. You can go in the MITRE attack, attack that MITRE.org, and the navigator is MITRE attack GitHub.io and attack navigator. So this is the last tool which I depicted over the uh, video last time. So for learning the MITRE framework, you do not have to have actually any resources. You can simply go through the MITRE framework and try to understand the tactics, technique, and the procedure. You first have to have things on your mind, why you are actually looking that technique. Let's say you popped up with the mind that okay, I want to do something regarding the persistence, then just go to the MITRE framework matrices, select it. Say if you wanna do that for the Windows or Linux, just choose on your preferences and go through all the techniques that are available there. Just click on that and check what are all the threat actors which are using such techniques, and definitely you have to read a lot everything there to understand the thing, and then you can also perform additional research on that particular technique, how they did that, and you will find a lot more resources on the basis of your research. I I haven't used much of the software like VMware and VirtualBox. There is a Kimu. You can use that, and there are a couple of them which I don't have on my mind right now because I usually go with the VMware or the VirtualBox. Okay, which has more jobs, Pentester or the red teaming? Which has more jobs, Penetester or the red teaming? So it is. If I have to say that Pentester and red teaming, it intersects. It intersect, which means the knowledge you have as a Pentester and the knowledge you have as a red teaming. It depends on how much knowledge you have. Okay, so let's say if you have knowledge on a different domain, then it's fine. You can work as a pen tester. At the same time, you can work as a red teaming. But here, the thing that you have to focus is the methodology. What you will do with that knowledge as a pen tester, and what will you do with that knowledge as a red teaming. So the minor difference is here, penetration tester, they have the limited scope, which means they will, let's say they will perform certain attacks, they will exploit that, and then they will report. But as a red teaming, you will not do that. You will definitely try to uh, perform full chain attack, full life cycle attack, which we talked about that earlier. So if you, as long as you have knowledge in a different domain as a penetrator as well, you can hop onto the red teaming. And let's say if you have a very good knowledge as a red teaming, you can also go as a penetration tester. So as long as you have the knowledge, it's not that difficult to switch from penetration tester to the red teaming. But here's the difference, a little difference. um, let's say you are just doing the, let's say, certain penetration testing in a certain scope. Let's say only in if you are only doing the web penetration testing, then you may have to increase knowledge in the other domain like active directory, or you may want to do malware analysis and development, or more than that. That's the thing. So also one thing is that in a red teaming, you may want to build your own tool. Also, you will do that in the pen tester testing, but in a red teaming as well, maybe you may have to craft some tool on your own. Also, in the penetration testing, you also design the script, but the broader knowledge will help you in a red teaming. Okay, about the VMware, yeah, I don't have any idea because I haven't used more than VMware and VirtualBox. But there are a couple of them. If let's say if your machine is good enough, you can also use the Microsoft Hyper-V, and there is a Zane, and there is a Proxmox. I can go and look for those as well. Yeah, also do not forget to use this coupon code. I will send this coupon code globally. I hope you guys enjoyed the webinar, and I really appreciate for having patience and joining this webinar. So thank you everyone. I'm gonna end the session, and we will meet again with a new webinar ahead. Thank you everyone. Have a good day, good evening, good afternoon, good night.